From recruiting and consulting firm Riderflex, I'm your host, Steve Urban, and here is your Riderflex episode of the day. And on today's episode of the Riderflex podcast, a quick challenge for you. When you're visiting with somebody in a social setting or even a business meeting or whatever, what percentage of the time do you talk about yourself versus ask about them? Have you measured that lately? Ask yourself that question. You know, I'm just blown away by that when I meet people these days. I measure it, I monitor it. I'm always analyzing that. Like, okay, are they going to talk about themselves 90% of the time? Are they going to ask me any questions? Here's a good way to measure that, by the way, to grade yourself. When you leave the conversation later on that night, just ask yourself, I met Fred today. Do I know anything about Fred? Do I know his wife's name? Do I know if he has any kids? Where's he from? I mean, did you learn anything about Fred? Or did you just talk about yourself the whole time? Well, that's the best way to kind of measure it. By the way, if you did learn something about Fred, make a note of it, right? Make a note of what his wife's name is or what the children's names are and how old they are, etc. Especially if it's a business relationship that is important to you and you're trying to get to know that person. It'll be really impressive next time you meet Fred if you can bring up his kid's name and say, how is little Susie doing? It's important. I mean, these little things are important. Anyway, the point of the podcast is this. I would say 75% of the people I meet talk about themselves 75% of the time during the conversation. There's a lot of narcissist behavior out there. It seems like it's getting worse and worse. I don't know if that has anything to do with social media, but it seems like it's getting worse to me. So just check yourself. My tip of the day is this. Make people feel good. Win them over. Best way to do that is ask about them and don't talk about yourself the entire time. And there is your Riderflex tip of the day. The Riderflex podcast features entrepreneurs, business executives, and the stories behind how they got there, as well as daily tips on career advice and job interviews. Our show can be heard just about anywhere these days, but you can visit riderflex.com and click on the podcast page to hear all the previous episodes and learn more about the recruiting and consulting services we provide. Contact us at the email address info@riderflex.com or 888-964-5876. Thanks so much for listening, and if you enjoy our show, please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like the episodes.